let's talk about a feeling that almost every entrepreneur knows way too well. It's that sense that you're working harder than you ever have before, but your business, it's just stuck. Revenue has totally flatlined, and you feel like you're a prisoner in the very thing you built to set you free. Does that sound familiar at all? I mean, you're constantly putting out fires. You're the last one to leave the office. But when you step back and look at the numbers, nothing is really moving forward. It's like being on a treadmill, you know? You're just running faster and faster, but you're not actually going anywhere. So what's really going on here? Well, after looking at over 1,000 businesses, a really clear pattern starts to show up. The reason you're stalled, it's probably not your competition, it's not the market conditions. The real problem, almost every single time, is internal. It's these structural and human traps that, you've accidentally built right into the foundation of your own company. So in this explainer, we're going to break down 6 of these critical traps. We'll start with the traps of self. That's things like control and panic. Then we'll get into the traps of strategy, ownership and focus, and finally, the foundational traps, like solving the completely wrong problems. And then we'll get to the real fix for all of it, building a system that's stronger than any single personality. Okay, let's start with the ones that are the most personal and honestly the most common. These are the traps that are all about a founder's mindset. We're talking about the traps of self, control, and panic. The first trap is the control trap, and it's a huge paradox, right? Founders are pretty good at delegating the tasks they hate, but they absolutely refuse to replace themselves in the roles they're good at and secretly enjoy. That mindset of no one can do this as well as me makes you the ultimate bottleneck, and it turns your business into nothing more than a high-stress job that completely owns you. So how do you escape this? Well, the fix is a pretty clear 4-step process to systematically fire yourself from that job. First, stop calling yourself CEO if you're really spending all day doing sales. Retitle yourself Senior Sales Rep. Second, you've got to document your exact process. Third, define the key metrics for that role. And then finally, hire someone specifically to take over that function. That's how you duplicate your best work and actually start to scale. Now, being a bottleneck leads directly to the second trap of self, the panic hire. You're feeling the pressure, right? A key seat is empty, and you just feel like you need to get a warm body in that chair, now. But the cost? Oh, it can be absolutely brutal. I heard about one founder who rushed the process, ignored a bunch of red flags, and ended up hiring someone who stole over $10,000 and just completely poisoned the team's culture. So here's the bottom line. Never, ever, ever lower your standards out of desperation. Look, you can hire fast. I've seen great people hired in a single week, but you absolutely cannot skip your process. If your gut screams that something is off, if you spot even one tiny red flag, you have to walk away. Don't buy into the myth that there's a shortage of talent. Great people are out there. Settling for a good enough will absolutely kill your growth. Okay, now let's zoom out a little bit and move to the traps of strategy. These are those high-level mistakes that stop a business from really breaking through to the next level: a lack of ownership and a lack of focus. And this brings us to trap number 3, scaling without ownership. You might have a fancy dashboard with like 20 different KPIs, but if there isn't one specific person's name next to each of those numbers, who's really responsible for moving it? It's that old saying, when everyone is responsible, nobody is. We call these orphan metrics, and they are a huge reason for stalled growth. The solution here is so simple. For every single crucial metric in your business, assign it to one and only one person. That person has to be crystal clear that moving that number is the most important part of their job. This creates a level of clarity and accountability that is just a total game changer. All right, next up is the shiny object trap. This one usually kicks in when a business hits that first million in revenue. The founder gets a little bored, a little restless, and starts looking for the next big thing. This story about a dentist is the perfect example. He had one successful practice, decided to open a second one in his favorite vacation spot, Lake Tahoe, and he ended up destroying both. His attention was split, his first office started to decline, and his vacation spot just became another place he had to work. The fix is a powerful mantra you have to repeat to yourself. Keep the main thing the main thing. Instead of adding a second distracting business, you need to simplify. Put the blinders on and double or even triple down on what made you successful in the first place. That kind of focus is what unlocks real wealth, not splitting your attention. Now let's get down to the very core of the business, the traps of foundation. These cover 2 of the most misunderstood areas out there: solving the right problems and building a real culture. $30,000. A month. That's how much one company was burning on ads because they were absolutely convinced they had a marketing problem. They thought, if we can just perfect our ad campaigns, just get the targeting right, everything will finally take off. But this is the fifth trap: solving for the sauce. You see, they didn't have a marketing problem at all. Their sauce, their ads, it was great. The real issue was that their sales process, let's call it the noodles, was completely raw. They had no consistent process for actually handling the leads they were generating. They were spending all their time, all their money solving the absolute wrong problem. And that brings us to trap number 6, the culture myth. So many founders think that culture is about ping pong tables and free beer on Fridays, but that's just fake culture. Real culture, the kind that attracts and keeps A players, is all about structure. It's about having established processes, super clear expectations, consistent feedback, and creating an environment where people feel like they can actually win. So after navigating all these different traps, what's the one single solution that ties everything together? It really comes down to this one core idea. You have to build a system that runs the business so you don't have to. And this, right here, is the most crucial point of all. A business that can actually scale cannot depend on the personality or the sheer force of will of one person. It has to be built on a system of processes, of roles, and of metrics that works predictably whether you show up or not. And this is the real prize at the end of the day. When you build the system, you get true freedom. The business doesn't need you to be there to put out every fire. It grows because the system itself is designed for growth. And that gives you the ability to lead, to strategize, and even to take a real vacation without everything falling apart. So as we wrap this up, I want you to just think for a second about your own business. Looking at these 6 traps we talked about: control, panic hires, no ownership, shiny objects, solving the wrong problem, and fake culture, which one of those is hitting a little too close to home for you right now? Because just identifying the trap you're in, that's the very first step to redesigning your way out.